everybody, and welcome back to your second episode of the Cup Duet Reviews this week. I am your co-artistic producer and now bald host. I am Mackenzie. I guess I can still say ginger. I still have the ginger beard, so it still counts. It still counts. But
of course,
the bald host now. So there we go. And I am joined today by our associate artistic producer, the wonderful Jillian Robinson. Hello, Jill.
Hello, Mac.
Welcome. And
thank you.
Yeah, right. And today we're diving into, the Shag Carpet Forest. That is the wonderful new play at YPT, Young People's Theatre, Wicked Nix.
Correct.
Running from April 28th to May the 15th. And, this was a fun surprise. It's based off a book by Lena, and adapted for the stage by Paula Wing.
Correct.
And this was such a fun piece. Like, you and I had never read the books.
Nope.
And so I'll be interested to hear if all the twists and turns got you, or if you kind of were predicting the plot as it was going along. So I'll be interested to hear what you say. But before we get into that, Jill, what is in your cup and what is your ensemble today?
Yes, I feel like I do want to mention too, it is directed and dramaturged by Stephen Colella, a YPT staple. So yes, brilliant work again, Stephen. Okay, yes, before we dive in, the icebreaker. So I am just sipping on some water. Before the recording, I had my day job brunch serving supervising shift, so I'm a little bit dehydrated. So we're gonna hydration station. And my ensemble today, this was a shirt that was on my vanity and it has flowers and roses on it. And one of our characters' name is Rose. So I thought that was fitting. And then nothing in particular about these earrings, but just they're new earrings. And anyone on the cup knows I love my earrings. So we've got some fresh earrings happening today. That is my ensemble. Pivoting back to you, Mac, what is in your cup and what is your ensemble?
Well, I am drinking some sugar-free mango passion fruit drink. So it is delicious. Ensemble is nothing special, just one of my nice gray shirts. And I felt like a nice blue blazer tonight, something kind of naturey, Queen of the Fairy blue, night sky blue, all that type of fun stuff there. I thought about wearing green, but I'm like, no, I can't do green because I have my green screen behind me. So wear green
blend.
Yeah, exactly. I'll part of the set appearing on my shirt. So that's why we don't wear greens. But I would have worn a green had green been available. But yes.
Great.
So Jill, since you and I both did not read the book, give a summary for our adult viewers who may not have also read the book, but going to want to know what this piece is about and if they can take their kiddos, if they have kids or nieces, nephews, family, friends, what is this play about?
Yeah. So like we said, it is adapted for the stage. It is based on a novel. And from what we compared from reading the synopsis of the novel and what we saw, it seems pretty synonymous. So that's great. So yeah.
It's not a big book, so easy to adapt in the sense that there wasn't
like a YA novella.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't a ton of material where you have to really condense or cut things to make it fit onto the stage. It seemed like a pretty good book, a good sized book that you could easily kind of work on getting adapted. Not saying it was an easy adaptation, but the length of material was well suited for a YPT piece.
Exactly. So Wicked Nix follows Nix, who is a wicked fairy who we kind of right off the hop get the impression that he is responsible to sort of look over this forest area. And very early on, we kind of get through his characterization that this is very important to him to sort of man the forest.
It's his one job that he has by the Queen of the Fairies for 1 year.
Correct. And he is friends with this little girl named Rose who lives adjacent or in the forest. And there is a relationship with Rose and her mother about the fairies and about whether the evilness or just folklore of the fairies. And then we have a cottage dwelling character who kind of moves into the forest. A human person is how I believe how Nix refers to him. Man people, right.
He's known as the man people in the program.
Yes, and there is a huge sort of aggravation from Nix to get this man person out of the forest. And so sort of
before the Midsummer Festival
conspire. Yes, before the Midsummer Festival.
When the Queen of Fairies will return.
Yes, the tricks conspire to try to get this man person out of the forest.
Very Home Alone.
And then alongside that, you're sort of drawn into the very fun, imaginative relationship that Nix has with Rose. Rose learns more and more about the fairy folklore from her mother. And then I don't want to give too much away, but like they do get to the Midsummer. It's called Midsummer's Eve, right?
Midsummer's Eve, and Rose wants to go because Nix has talked up the fairies so much. And so basically her plot is wanting to meet the fairies. Nix's plot is basically centered around getting rid of this man people before the Queen of the Fairies arrives, because it's his job to protect the forest. And then, of course, we have the wonderful Mr. Green character, who's kind of the shepherd of the forest. He is Ent, in the words of Tolkien.
Yeah, but I don't want to give away a huge plot point, so we'll just kind of say Eve comes, the fairy queen does present herself, and there's other sort of realizations that ensue or come to light, but we'll definitely do that post spoiler. But for, like I said, like this novel, as we looked up, in 2018 is when it was released. So it's really neat, that this adaptation was sort of pumped out as quickly as it was. And it's funny because Mac, like obviously we grew up with, you know, novellas and kids stories, but
Magic Treehouse
back in the olden days.
Yes.
Magic Treehouse. Yeah.
Those are the ones I remember reading.
Really neat to have absorbed, you know, a piece of literature that kids nowadays are, you know, reading and getting to see on stage. And again, post spoiler, we'll kind of dive further into like themes and kind of unpacking all of that. But yeah, so that's kind of the synopsis and the vibes unpacked there. Before we go into spoiler zone, general appraisals. Mac, how'd you feel about the piece?
You know, this was such a fun piece, and I got to give credit where credit is due. Like for a while, I've been very hesitant to see many young people's genre shows, just because in the past, the young people's shows I had seen have been very pandery, juvenile material that had just not captivated me, interested me at all. And I was just like, you know what? This genre is just not for me. And I've now seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I've seen this. And YPT just keeps showing me and other adult audiences that young people's theater can be fun. There is an element of like they're doing the right thing where they're kind of like Pixar, where Pixar movies are adult movies that are children friendly. And this piece has a lot of material that for a child, they won't fully grasp onto some of the bigger topics and themes that are going on. And yet, as a child, you're brought into this wonderful world of the theater, in the imagination and the imagery that's produced here. And I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what young people's theater should be striving to at all times. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for the really young, like toddlery, you know, Dora the Explorer-esque, which way do we go, audience? Like that type of interactive theater where it's like, that is that, and that is fine. Like that is a genre within the young people's genre. It's a subgenre that is fine. But this is something that is like that perfect young adult, like mid, like ages 8 and like I would say ages 6 and up could probably go to this and really get something out of it. And they could sit, they would be attentive. It's not too long. It's 80 minutes, 85 minutes long. Like it's a good solid piece. It's got great messaging about the environment, about family, about mythology and things like that. And the dark side of mythology too. Like it ties way much more back into like a Grimm's fairy tale-esque style of fantasy versus the Disneyfication, overly happy style of fantasy we get nowadays. Like,
agreed.
Like I the fairies can't, like they can be like wicked, like they can be tricky, mean creatures. You know, so it's one of those things where it's like they're not all, you know, sugar plums and you know, Flora Fauna Merryweather from Sleepy. Don't get me wrong, those are great characters. I have a whole story I could do about those 3 fairies and how important they are to the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale. But this is great. This was such a fun piece that I came away going, what a great night out. Like this was such fun. And now anytime we get a YPT invite, I'm really excited to see what Herbie and Camila are going to get up to as they keep programming more things, because this is a company that obviously has been around for a while, and they just can't, and they have such a great hold in the city for being a great place to introduce young artists to. And we're going to get more into production design and things like that post spoiler. But overall, this was such a terrific piece of young people's theater that, and I would just say theater in general, not even young people's, I would just say just a great piece of theater in general that plays to both the young and the older. There's a beautiful message in there for both groups that I think this is a perfect Venn diagram piece of a family style theatrical piece that I couldn't be more happier to see this piece before. And I would even say, like, I would love other companies to work with YPT and bring this adaptation or bring this production out to other theater companies like Shar Stratford. Like, bring this to one of your seasons. Like, Stratford always has those great young people's shows. Like this year they're doing Inner Green Gables by, and who's adapting that? It's Kate.
I know it's Kat Sandler, I believe.
Kat Sandler, thank you. Kat Sandler's adapting that. But it's like, why not have two? Like, you can easily have Wicked Nix and Inner Green Gables as part of your season. And because it's a family thing. Like, these are two great family shows you could easily program. It's like you program two musicals, program two young people's theater pieces, because there's enough material here that you could easily have. I could easily see a well done translation from one stage to the next stage. So I would love to see this adaptation get picked up and reprogrammed throughout, because this is a really solid piece and a great new piece of theater as well. And I think our adapter is Canadian as well, if I'm not mistaken. Paula Wing as a Canadian playwright. This is a great, once again, getting, like, right now we are big, and I'm so happy to see the Canadian pride is running fast and strong here. And so I'm seeing more theater companies embracing Canadian pieces. I think this is a great one that will have a lot of legs going forward. So overall, a terrific production. We're going to dive more into the cast production team, so don't worry. We will get to those, you wonderful people. But in general, terrific job. Terrific job. Well done, YPT and team.
I totally agree with you. And just to add, and again, I know we'll get into specifics, but one thing I gotta tip my hat always for YPT is like really doing such a successful job. And maybe this is mostly tipping the hat to Stephen as the literary manager, in-house dramaturg. I feel like the marriage of text to the production elements of all of their pieces is just top notch all the time. Like, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of see a glimpse of the set behind Mac right now. But the set was so like quirky, like, you know, rounded, twig-like. It just exuded what the story flavor felt like, if that makes sense. Like, they're just the way that the set pieces moved, and the way, you know, that the shag carpet could be removed. And again, it kind of was minimalist in a way too. Like, there was some sort of like magic, you know, realization through like miming of things, but then sometimes there's like small props, the pop of color amidst the sort of like, greens and browns. I just feel like, once again, just I've said it, like a beautiful marriage of what the text and the genre of the book probably feels like when you read it, and then showcasing that, you know, through our set, through our costume pieces, which we'll get into. But I feel like I haven't said that straight out for YPT shows, but I really think it is the magic that is this company. They knock it out of the park every time, marrying sort of dramaturgically what the flavor of the text is on stage.
Love that.
Cool.
Love that.
Should we dive into the spoiler zone?
We can. I mean, unless there's anybody you want to shout out before spoiler zone that you feel we can talk about, or do you just want to dive straight in so we're not, you know?
Let's dive straight in. That way we can sort of let some cats out of the bag, and then we can talk about the cats out of the bag.
Once again, so before we go into spoiler zone, though, this show is running at the Ada Slate stage from April the 28th to May the 15th. So there's still time to go out and get your tickets when this review drops. So I think you'll have at least another weekend or so. So definitely have some time to go on ahead and see the piece. So highly recommend that. It's great. Go on out, support the theater. So much fun. But Jill, what is that springing up on our screen? It's blossoming. It's a spoiler daisy.
Yes.
Yes.
which we are in spoiler zone now.
Yes.
Daisies supposedly are very like danger zone for the fairies. So,
They put the fairies into a everlasting slumber, kind of like Sleeping Beauty pricking her
yes.
finger on the spindle of the spinning wheel. It can put the
Yes.
fairy to sleep.
Hmm.
But yes, we are now officially in the spoiler zone, fairy free. We are protected from the mischievous queen of the fairies.
Yep.
And Jill, I would say let's start with the cast. So who
Should
do
we
you want to
start
give
with
a
the cast, or can we let the spoiler of the rest of the plot out first?
You know what? Let's do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's wind
So
up the
I'm just
plot
going
because
to
there's some
jump
interesting.
right in.
Yes.
So, like you said, we are safe from the fairies. However, someone who wasn't safe from the fairies was Nix himself. We
Mhm.
find out that the cottage dwelling man person that is in the cottage is actually, again, stop this if you don't want a big spoiler,
Mhm.
even though we're in spoiler zone, is Nix, who was formerly Nicholas,
Mhm.
Nicholas's little brother. John,
Yes.
right?
It's John or Jacob, something like that. It
Yes,
starts with a
John.
J. It's kind of a generic everyman name.
Yes. So we find out that is his little brother.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, looks older
Correct.
because once you've kind of gone over into fairyland,
Yeah.
like the
The Valley of
time
the
and
Fairies, whatever.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Basically 1 year in Fairyland before the next Midsummer Festival is
Yes.
like almost a lifetime of
Yep.
time, like different time periods. So basically,
Hmm.
basically, it's almost like going to Neverland, where it's like
Yep.
there's a lot of Peter Pan-y elements to this piece,
Hmm.
which is a lot of fun. But yeah, like that is the big twist of the story is that Nix is not a fairy as he thinks. He
Yep.
is actually
Human boy.
a human who was stolen away by the fairies when his
Hmm.
parents were distracted because of John the brother's. I guess he had like a heart condition or some type of infant
Yeah, he was like sick, or he
illness.
was
Yeah.
very, very sort of disruptive
Yeah.
as a baby. And
Yes.
so Nicholas sort of.
Basically, yeah, was distracted. Was kind of neglected. Not even neglected. His parents were just
Mhm.
focused there, and Nicholas ran away one
Yeah.
night. So it just happened to be the night of the Midsummer Festival, and the fairies found
Yeah.
Nicholas and kind of took him away to the Queen of the Fairies, who likes children. Which, once again, great dark element that comes from these grim fairy tales, which is these mischievous creatures. You know, they are tricky. They can be really cruel
Hmm.
in the world, and so they stole away this child, and as we find out, Nix's parents basically withered away in grief for
Hmm.
years, which is tragic. Like that's a very dark element to bring into a piece that not all the children will get. But as someone older, like I remember there was a time when my grandmother and I got separated from my mother during like a big waterfront festival in Barrie. It's called Kempenfest. And
Hmm.
we were separated for about an hour and a half. So my mom said that hour and a half felt like a lifetime
Yep.
because she didn't know where and this was in the 90s. This was before cell phones. So like there was no real way to contact and text nowadays. Be like, where are you, mom?
Hmm.
Like, do you have Mackenzie? Like, basically my mother turned around and both of us had gone because there was a miscommunication and like, we thought they went this way, but we went that way. Anyway, point being is my mother said like that hour and a half was one of the most
Yep.
traumatic times of your life where you just feel time is like every second is ticking away and you
Hmm.
just don't know what's going on. And you can imagine it's like these parents who, turn their back to help one child, turn around and their other child is just gone. And the fact that
Yeah.
the fairies every year trick them by giving them like the fake human, have like mud
Hmm.
and leaves that then falls apart in your arms. It's like, oh my God, like talk about trauma. Like that is
Yeah.
major trauma. And even Nix as a character, like his trauma was like this Peter Pan like syndrome
Hmm.
where like he doesn't want to accept that he's not a fairy. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of mental health identity things there that you can really get into
Yeah.
as well. So I thought that was such a great twist. Did you see the twist coming? Because
I
I
did
didn't.
not. No.
I didn't.
I figured there was going to be something a little bit more elaborate as to
Yeah.
why this like man person is
Mhm.
playing such a pivotal role.
Mhm.
I thought it was maybe going to be something about like using like people versus fairies, like and having them
Mhm.
be from different worlds and kind of like
Yes.
having to learn how to adapt and
Yes,
live
that's what I thought it was going to.
harmoniously.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, it like truly pivoted. And then, so again, when this is all happening, now that we kind of, so it's, and they say this in the synopsis too,
Mhm.
YPT, in their write up, of how it centers around the themes too of like family and bonds.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, you know, you have this realization that they're brothers, and
Mhm.
as kind of, it's like the back half of the play, they sort of
Mhm.
navigate or learn how to navigate each other's presence. And
Yes.
then through that, Rose and her mother, who get a bit separated, and Rose is really,
Mhm.
really wanting to go to kind of get caught up in
Yeah.
the Midsummer's Eve
Mhm.
vibes. And then again, like you're saying, like she
Mhm.
gets lost for a
Mhm.
moment and the mom finds her, and then
Mhm.
the two of them sort of
Mhm.
reconnect as well. So yeah, there's a lot of like
Yeah.
family bond
Yeah. Mhm.
unpacking in this
Yeah.
piece too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, once again, the adaptation did such a good job of giving such a red herring,
Hmm.
because you would think that the mother character would have at some point spotted her daughter talking to this other human being in their yard. But the fact that she never acknowledges that there's this
Hmm.
other human being literally hiding in the bushes next to their house is why I kept going, well, he can't be a human. Like, there were part of me going, there's a twist here. There's something that's going to be more to the story.
Yeah.
And that, but every time they didn't acknowledge another human being, like the fact that he could easily just, appear and disappear and not be seen by the adults in the story, I was like, okay, maybe he's not human. Like, maybe he actually is a fairy that only Rose can see, because maybe there's something that's just like in Neverland where, like, once adults grow up or children
Yeah.
grow into adults, you can never go back to Neverland because you don't believe in that anymore. You lose your ability to go back
Mhm.
there. So I was like, okay, maybe that's why Rose is able to see the fairy, but her mother can't, because she's lost that sense of wonder of the world as an adult. Except for maybe Mr. Green, who, is someone who clearly is still attached to that element of the world. Ergo, he can see the fairies. But the fact that that was such a great scene when he decides to show his face to
Yeah.
man people, and he
Hmm.
goes, "Oh, you're a boy." And I went, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh," and like even the kids down in front of us, they even had a moment of, "Oh," like that
Yeah.
was such a genuine twist to the story, was brilliant,
Yeah.
so well done, perfect, perfect, perfect,
Definitely.
perfect storytelling there. Yeah.
So I feel like let's now shout out some of the cast members
Yes.
to who
Yes.
did the storytelling. Maybe we'll
Yes.
just hit on a couple and then we'll
Yeah.
move to production elements.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 5 people, so once again, a really small dynamic cast.
Mhm.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll shout out. I guess, yeah,
Mhm.
there's five of them, so we can kind of unpack a little bit about
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So I want to just shout out our lead, Wicked Nix himself, played by Devinder Malhi.
Hmm.
Phenomenal, phenomenal work.
Yes.
The physicalization and the
Hmm.
gesturing
Hmm.
of like the fairy motions, but also peppering in Nix's sort of like anxiety with things. Like I feel like it
Hmm.
could have been very kind of like general swath of
Very schmacky. It could have gone into that really schmacky,
yeah.
like, once again, young children's Dora the Explorer esque acting,
Mhm.
where it's like you are just playing for the kids in the room. But he
Yeah.
brought such humanity
Very
to, once again,
specific and a
humanity.
lot of
He is a human,
layers.
but yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of layers. Like his frustration and anger when he's being misled by the fairies as he's trying to find the
Hmm.
Midsummer Valley, wherever he's going, and he gets angry at his brother.
Hmm.
He has that emotional breakdown moment of, leave me alone. Like, honestly, like, just stop talking and leave me alone. Like,
Yeah.
you are completely uprooting my entire existence of what I thought I was.
Hmm.
That was such a genuine. Once again, it's a very adult moment. Like, kids will probably understand it on some level because kids are smart.
Hmm.
Kids have had those moments where things have not gone their way and they're having those big emotions, those big feelings. But as an adult, you watch them and go, "Oh, this is someone having like a mental health crisis, who is really
Yeah.
having personality split almost, where it's like,
Hmm.
am I human or am I this mystical figure? Like, I thought I was this my entire life, and now I'm not this. And this man
Yeah.
keeps telling me that my reality is not my reality, and he's having a mental break,
Yeah.
basically, in the forest. Like,
And
it's one of those beautiful moments.
I think the usage of space and the sort of
Yes.
familiarity and the groundingness that
Mm-hmm.
Nix obviously has been overseeing and knows
Mm-hmm.
every single piece of soil and plant that is
Oh
this
my God, some of the
forest.
best moments.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah, very well done of
Yeah.
Devinder. Absolutely like
Yeah.
agency to the max
Mhm.
in every part of the stage that he
Yes.
was in. And kind of the central grounding point, a really great use of the Ada Slate balcony,
Yes.
where
Oh, the
is
little
sort of the
nest up
home
there.
base
Yeah.
nest for Nix.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just thought that was, yeah, the overall, the entire performance, phenomenally
Hmm.
led by Devinder.
Yeah.
Um, Great. I guess
Yeah.
pivoting, Mac, do you want to kind of pivot to someone else? We'll kind of ping pong
Sure.
back and
Sure.
forth.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I will say my next shout out goes to Kiana McGillichrist as Rose the Wise. Once again, that challenge of you're an adult who's now playing clearly someone much younger than you,
Hmm.
which has become more of a trope these days in theater. Like To Kill a Mockingbird, the most recent adaptation, both Stratford and Broadway both had Scout played by an adult woman
Hmm.
regressing into a childlike form. We're going to see that this season with Anne of Green Gables at the Stratford Festival, where it's going to be an adult woman in her 20s going back to playing a tween adult in Anne. Like we're seeing that element, that's kind of storytelling element coming back, and
Hmm.
the joy that Kiana brought to Rose. She really did embody a child of theirs. Like I could totally see some of my friends' kids being exactly like this energy,
Yeah.
this precocious, bubbly, big energy. Like just her teaching Nix the little tricks to getting around the man people's traps that he set up
Yeah.
was so wonderful. That ma ha ha little dance that you do, like just
Hmm.
so sweet and wonderful. And even her like her possessed fairy moment is such a great, like just that 180 style character
Yeah.
spin that allows us to see that Nyx is going to see through it of something is off here, something is
Yeah.
not right, is great. And
To-
her chemistry with the actress who played her mom slash the Queen of the
yeah.
Fairies, Christine Horn, was so wonderful. Like once again, mother daughter dynamic was so
Hmm.
beautiful and warm. Like just their opening scene of them fighting over the honeycomb, uh,
Hmm.
and the little debate of, well, we can cut a smaller piece. It's actually my own sister, the one that wants to be the lawyer, Quincy. This
Hmm.
was an exact argument she would have with my mother. 1 carat, 2 carat. The fairies won't know if I licked the honeycomb.
Yeah.
So just once again, the way Kiana played the child, and the way Christine played that loving, protective, but yet firm mother figure, you just
Hmm.
felt the years of that relationship. And then basically when Christine became the queen of the fairies, the fairy queen, she was terrifying. Like she
Yeah.
was like full on Maleficent for Sleeping Beauty.
Hmm.
Like even the way her costume with the horned kind of headdress she was wearing, like she was wonderfully wicked as that
Yeah.
character. It's such a, like, once again, just like how when we did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I forget the actress in that show, but she played two very different roles.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Then I was like, is that the same actress playing both roles? And this is the same type of thing where like YPT's doing a great job of finding actors who can double cast, and
Hmm.
you could totally differentiate the characters and not, and I don't, because I didn't have a program in my hand, but I was
Hmm.
like, I'm pretty sure that's the same actress, because I can imagine they'd have one actress sitting backstage for like, you
Yeah.
know, 60 minutes of a show just for a 10-minute scene at the very end. But you never know, you sometimes need like a swing or an understudy. So you can easily double cast a character and make it so it's like understudy, like fairy queen plus understudy Mr. Green becomes Mrs. Green, or like women people. You could easily kind of double cast some roles and gender swap them to fit a understudy character
Yeah.
or an understudy actor for the piece. So, but yeah, Christine Horn, great job, like
Yeah.
terrific. Any thoughts on these two actresses for their work?
Yeah, just to kind of reify everything you said, Kiana absolutely hit it out of the park of
Mhm.
playing the super, super juvenile role, but again, not making it seem unrealistic. Like it really was the naivete and the innocence and the joy and the cheer, and even in the costuming, choices, which we can get into after we shout out the cast. But I just feel like, yeah, there was like a wonderful marriage of everything going on for Rose the Wise there. And then, as you sort of naturally flowed into shouting out Christine Horn, I've seen Christine in so many other works too. And she really is such a lovely, versatile actor that dons our stages. And to see her in a piece where she gets to sort of sink her teeth into the like loving, strong pillar mother strength. And then this like very mischievous, again, a maternal-esque character, but in a very grotesque way. I thought it was just, it like fit perfectly into her wheelhouse. So, and executed really, really well. And I love that through, I think, the mummy and the fairy queen character, like this piece, like we've been saying, it doesn't shy away from like spoon feeding sort of like magic and throwing wool over the eyes of children. Like there's some like very deep and heavy discussions that like mummy has, and then the fairy queen, you know, being quite steadfast and cruel in her ways. Again, just like through the presentation of that, I feel like Christine didn't shy away or didn't sort of like kidify her performances.
Yes. Yeah, like the kids in front of us, they were getting scared by the fairy queen. And I was like, you have every right to be scared of this character.
But it wasn't like here's the thing is I feel like everyone kind of navigated, like it's not some people don't know how to, and I've done a lot of TYA, right? So it's like some people don't have the ability to realize what is going too far with kids. Because there is that, like, regardless of what generation you grew up in, there is like, as the actor, like that's why some folks like can't do TYA, because there's just such a sort of like darkness that if they go there and they forget that their audience is youth. So I feel like it is difficult sometimes to exude the sort of emotions that are frustration, anger, possession, grief, like these heavier tones. It's harder to play that as it requires you to be delicate but real with those emotions when you're doing it for youth. And I just feel like across the board, the whole cast did this, and YPT always does a phenomenal job of finding that balance. But I feel like Christine, again, seeing her in adult plays as well, like she can absolutely go the darkest dark. I feel like she just played that wonderful balance line that the kids were frightened, but they weren't like crying.
Yes,
afraid,
exactly.
You know,
exactly. Like, definitely the kids in front of us were squirming as that scene got more intense, because I mean, once again, the production, which we'll get more into in a little bit, but like the production where they augmented her voice a bit. That really eerie costume that was very Maleficent-esque. Like it was meant to be a bit scary. Like once again, these like the original fairy tales, the non-Disney ones, like the Grimm fairy tales, the Charles Perrault, Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, had very dark elements in them that were meant to really scare and teach kids. Like this is kind of like the fairy queen's a bit meant to be a bit like, you know, Stranger Danger, where it's like, you know, don't follow the lights. Like, don't, you know, don't fall for the stranger. You know, they may be nice and friendly, and you know, but there's a danger there. Like, be smart, be wise, kids. Like, listen to your parents. You know, I play in the yard. Don't run down the block unless you know your parents are going to be there. You know, to keep an eye. You know, totally. Because there are the queens of the fairies out there who can be very nice, very, you know, very inviting, but then, you know, scary, right? There's that real legitimate real world element to who the queen of the fairies is. And I saw Christy was once again great duality in her performance.
Definitely.
And along the lines of the mystical, we have Michael Spencer Davis, who you and I have both seen at Stratford and Soul Pepper throughout the years, and he plays the wonderful Mr. Green, who he was such, once again, he was like Nix, like he was a character that I was like, is he a legitimate just man, like a forest hermit, or is he a more mystical human being, more mystical, like a Mother Nature?
Exactly. Figure. Like an omniscient figure.
Yes, exactly. What is he? Because him and Rose never shared a scene together until the very end. So I'm like, is he just one of the neighbors in the village that is just interconnected with the forest? Or is he a more mystical spirit-esque? And so when that's revealed that he is a more mystical-esque spirit, okay, now that makes sense. But at the same time, he's a great example of firm yet fun.
Yeah.
He was all for Nix playing his tricks on man people, kind of, but he also is a bit firm. He's like, don't touch my toads and skunks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nix, play nice, like, like, this man has done nothing to you. Like, he just has a
Yeah.
house in the forest. Like, leave him be, like,
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time with the Queen of the Fairies, he's like, we have rules and things here. Like, play nice, play fair here, everybody. Like, he had that
Yeah.
great elder statesman dynamic of someone who has a lot of kindness, but also that kind of firm parental energy of, these are the rules, these are what we do, everybody follow along. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there's, like I said, like it's definitely an omniscient figure that sort of just weaves in and out of both plot lines in some shape or form. And I feel like Michael did
What do you
again.
think he was originally? Like before
I thought he was like an all-knowing force, like a representation, almost like a personified representation of the environment that is the forest, i.e. the world at large, like a Mother kind Nature of thing. Figure. Yeah, like a godlike Mother Nature figure. And then, like you said, kind of as he's sort of peacekeeper to everyone, again, that sort of drummed all of that home for me. But again, it takes like a super grounded, like multifaceted actor to endow that, right? Especially for kids to exude like this is sort of an all-knowing character. So I just thought, Michael did a really good job of portraying that.
Yeah.
And then pivoting to our man people, played by James Dallas Smith.
Yeah.
Wonderfully well performed there. Just, I think there's such a, like, especially in the beginning, when it is like, when we still think Nix is the fairy, it's like Nix is the fairy and, this is the man people. Like there's like a very sort of like stoic, like neutrality that man person kind of has to represent at first. And I thought James really like put the sort of pegs into the ground with that, no pun intended, I guess. And then we kind of see the character evolve emotionally and be actually like distraught and hurt and angry. Again, it's like we see this as like, instantly you're going to think the man person is going to cause havoc, but it's actually the opposite. You sort of get to see his emotions and vulnerability crack open. And then especially when their brotherhood is announced, I just thought it's like, very rarely do we have like a strong, grown adult man in even children's literature being portrayed as like emotional and raw and wanting relationship and wanting to be in harmony. And so I just think story-wise, the character of man people, like I would assume in the novel and then obviously in the stage adaptation, it's a wonderful representation of like delicate frailty that can be men. I just think it's like great that we see that. And then again, just knowing that they are brothers in the end, but they're very different, but then like they just fit, they just work together is Do you want anything more to add to man?
Yeah, I mean, JD, as he goes by in his program bio, is he had such a tough job in his character, which is he had a lot of work to do as a character. Like coming in, you're assuming that his character is going to be this, like the disruptor of the forest. The guy's going to come down and chop all the trees, clear the bush, like, classic Lorax versus humanity type situation. Like that's where this story is going to go. Like basically he's going to be the antagonist of the piece. And for a while there, he is technically he is the antagonist to Nix. But as you said, the humanity he brought to the character, like his frustration when Nix plants thorns in his garden. It's like, why would you do that to me? Like, I did nothing to you. And he's like, well, fine. You want to play this game? So be it. Let's go. Two can play at this game, Fairy. Like, bring it on. Let's go. So, but then at the same time, when he does find his brother, that love that he has for this person, where it's like, no, don't leave me. Like my parents died of grief, basically, from trying to find you. Now I found you. That's why I came back to this area of the forest, was to try and find you. And now I found you. Like just that genuine emotion, like that scene where Nix is having his breakdown, and he goes, "No, you know the ways of the forest. So here's what we're gonna do." and he comes
Yep.
up with the plan, and just that beautiful relationship he built. Like even that final scene where it's like, you can stay tonight. Like don't sleep up in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Stay with me tonight. Don't leave me. Like there's that beautiful dynamic, and I think also because JD is part of the Six Nations of the Great River, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Grand River, Turtle Clan, Mohawk a tribe there. What's it? And that culture has such a great affinity for respecting nature. I think that really
Yeah.
did put me at ease when I saw him come on stage. Like if they just cast, me basically like pasty white man coming into the forest, I would automatically have my back up and go, this guy's going to be a problem to the story. He is the full on antagonist. I'm not going to get behind him. But
Mm-hmm.
because you and I and all audiences will know that part of the First Nation culture is respect and love Mother Earth, you know, don't abuse the land. So the fact that right away I was automatically put at ease, where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this character is not going to be chopping down trees in the forest. He's going to be trying to live harmoniously, and Nix is going to figure out a way to do this. Like I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was such a great way of casting the character, where the minute you see him, you go, okay, I know, I know there's going to be conflict here, but he's not going to be downright evil, like evil forest man hacking away at the forest. Like there's a
Fair.
love of the earth already built into who this character is. And I thought that was such a great casting job by the team of bringing JD on because he automatically had such an energy about him, and he
Mm-hmm.
was respecting and loving the land
Yeah.
there. So just beautiful, just beautiful. And I will say, him and the actor who played Nix, Devinder, thank you. Their dynamic when he's leading him through the forest and he smacks his head on that tree branch. Oh
Yeah.
my God, so great. And I felt that whack. Like obviously it is hit a piece of wood backstage to make the
Yeah.
sound,
Yeah.
but I felt that pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It
I
was real
felt
good.
I felt when JD hit his head on that branch. That was
Yeah.
great. That was great.
Yeah.
JD had one of my favorite production design moments, which is when he dug up the shag carpet. I was like,
Yes.
what a perfect way to use it. Because you saw the shag carpet on stage, and it's like, okay, we're doing some, a young artist or a YP Young People Theater style set. Like this is a very circular Dr. Seussical and
Mm-hmm.
re-envisioning nature, rounded shapes, not angular style world. And so we're going to use this great shag carpet that our set designers who are, hold on, let me pull it up here.
Ting Huan and
Yeah.
Christine Cart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Urquhart. Both of them together create this great, beautiful, colorful set. And the minute he dug up the shag carpet, I was like, oh, you brilliant people. What a
Yeah.
great way to show the earth, and the fact that it was greenish and brown. Like it was like that great kind of turfy earth that you'd dig up to plant a garden. Like it was just
Yeah.
so well done. Like just that little detail. I was like, oh, JD, you did great. And direction by Stephen there. Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
what a great use of set to build out this bit of earth there and use a set piece. So
I want to
love the
jump
shag
on that.
carpets. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to jump on the set pieces because I think there are a lot of like
Yeah.
home oriented things
Mhm.
that kids would see or feel in their houses that were
Mhm.
brought into the forest that is
Yeah.
this set. So like you tugged on the shag carpets acting as the earth, as the grass.
Mhm.
There's a shower curtain that's used. So in the picture behind Mackenzie's
to
head,
cover
the
the
log
cottage.
cabin, when the shower curtain goes over, it's like a swath of greenery that
Yeah.
Mr. Green and man people sort of toggle back and forth between.
Yeah.
And then the chimney on the actual cabin cottage piece looked like almost like a steamer apparatus to make it look
Yes.
like there's smoke coming out.
Yes.
So again, like a diffuser or something. These are all sort of home elements that kids would relate to or see. And even when we go into sort of Rose and Mummy's land, the like checkered the checkered blanket that they like throw over the clothesline. And there's just there's a lot of really good use of like everyday house items that are transformed into magical set pieces for this like fantastical forest. And I love that too, because I think there's probably going to be some little kids that at the end of seeing this, because little kids love to reenact their favorite plays, books, movies, whatever, right? So seeing like a curtain on stage or a rug on stage pretending to be something that it's not, I would not be surprised if there's some kiddos that like in their evening bath after seeing Wicked Nix are like, look at our shower curtain. It's like we're going back and forth, like, So I just think it's a very YPT is always super intelligent with not only the sets themselves, like the picture of the set, but also the items used to create the set. And I know they're very environmentally friendly and always drumming forth the sort of our reduce, reuse, recycle of pieces. And yeah, I definitely want to shout out again, Ting Huan and Christine Urquhart.
Yeah.
Brilliant job across the board. And they're also the costume team as well. And, you know, we've touched on it throughout our cast appraisals, but just absolutely grounding down, no pun intended, in the very like earthy tones, the floral tones.
Yeah. I love Mr. Green's raincoat with the little shag carpet baubles that were attached to make it like almost like a mossy cape he was wearing with his little headdress. I was like, oh, that's so fun. Like,
the texture, is amazing.
The textures that were there. And I will say, the other team that worked in tandem really well together was the lighting design by Rebecca Brack. And then you also had sound design by Reha Jafanar. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name, Reha. But the two of them together to create, first of all, the fairy bushes with the little lights and the sound. I was like, oh, this is such a fun way to not have a lot of cast, but have it so you could imagine the little fairies on the branches talking amongst each other there. Yeah. And then, of course, as we said, the sound design when you get to the Queen of the Fairy and the mixing of the audio to create her kind of otherworldly voice, I just thought was a great touch. Like, once again, harmonious working. Like, Stephen brought together a really great team as the director who really worked harmoniously well together to build a multi-layered set, because Nix is up in a nest for part of the show and he has to come down back from backstage onto stage while talking without missing a beat. And having that element work, and then also having, like, you know, as you said, the smoke in the hut and, you know, all that type of stuff there, like a lot of design elements that had to go together to actually build this world. And I just thought, what a great job. Like, production wise, solid work was done by the team for sure.
I think that's a wonderful sort of cap on the night, Matt.
I mean, I don't have much more to say. I can't wait to see what YPT does next. I think we are safe to put away our spoiler daisy, as they say. We are free to let that fade away for until the next Midsummer's Eve. But once again, the show is running from April 28th to May 15th at the Ada Slate stage. And this was Wicked Nix. Jill, where can people follow you?
Yeah, we'll pop all the info to get your tickets for Wicked Nix below. And then info for me, folks want to find and follow me. My artist Instagram account is the best place to go. It is Jillian.Robinson96. I post some covers of things, some upcoming project info when that comes to light. And yeah, just really looking forward to diving into all things theatery and artistically as we sort of cascade into the spring and into the summer. So keep your eyes, ears peeled there. Yeah,
we got lots coming up. I mean, Toronto Fringe is just around the corner, and everybody knows our annual Fringe coverage gets busy and hectic. So we are slowly but surely walking our way into our busy summer season for sure. And we got lots more duet reviews lined up, as well as all of us are working on some other fun projects. Like we're gonna have some more screenplay episodes coming. I know Jill and I got some editorials we're gonna do. So there's lots more coverage coming in the next little while. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But if you want to follow my musical theater antics, you can follow Before the WD Musical podcast. We will be releasing our episode on Annie Get Your Gun around the time this episode comes out. So, you know, we have a great time talking about There's No Business Like Show Business. And Jill, anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Nice.
Yes.
Amazing.
Anyway, wonderful. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Yeah. Find and follow Cup of Hemlock Theatre.
Please,
on all the platforms.
If you have a show you want us to come talk about, please email us. The email is down below. We're always interested in seeing new theater companies that are springing up around Toronto GTA area. And if we can get you in and get something on the books for you, we'd love to work with you. So please send us your materials and we'll happily see what we can do. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that note, let's raise a glass.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. And we'll see everybody in our next episode.
See you next time, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.